The Great Gatsby is considered one of the great American novels, so a silver screen interpretation was always going to be highly scrutinized and criticized. While many felt the film was thoroughly enjoyable and visually stunning, so much so that it won 2 Oscars for both production and costume design, and that the director's attempts to recreate the roaring 20s by using aggressive zooms, hyperactive fades, and basically just throwing things at the camera just seemed confusing and chaotic. However, the VFX in the movie were stunning. Yes, The Great Gatsby did use VFX, a lot of VFX, almost 1,500 shots. That's on a par with Doctor Strange, Batman vs Superman, or Harry Potter. Animal Logic was lead VFX house with Rising Sun, Iloura, now Method Studios, ILM, Base Black, and Prime Focus, all contributing to create the New York of the 1920s in Sydney, Australia in the 21st century. Are you interested in learning the techniques of top movie filmmakers for absolutely free? Well, stay tuned until the end of the video where I'll tell you how you can level up your production knowledge for free on Skillshare. You may be thinking, so if the entire film is set in New York, why wasn't it filmed there? Well, the truth is that not a lot of the 1920s New York remains in today's New York. 90 years is a long time, especially for a city as big as New York. Buildings have grown, signage has changed, bridges, vehicles, roads, services, and skylines have all evolved dramatically over time, and all of this would have needed to be altered in post. To be blunt, there just isn't enough of 1920s New York left for it to be worth it. In order to create New York, the VFX team had a historical researcher who provided reference material, photos, and maps. They also used photos from a book called Mythic City that had lots of shots of Queensboro Bridge. From this material, they began to build a library of broken furniture and junk and other CG assets for the streets, different signs and 20 different buildings, as well as lots of different windows that could be interchanged to create even more variety. They built a low-resolution version of New York, which was then divided into CG sets, and more detail was added to the key areas. For the large pull-out shots, like the one on Queensboro Bridge, they combined high-res buildings with low-res buildings and 2.5D matte paintings as they pulled out. Gatsby's mansion was inspired by an old house called Beacon Towers. The idea was for it to be exotic, lavish, and loud, to contrast with Buchanan's more somber and classic mansion. The mansion was actually filmed in different places, and the VFX team were tasked with creating, extending, and stitching it all together to look like one. The beach was shot at Dole's Point in Sydney. The front street was shot in Sentinel Park in Sydney, and the front of the mansion was shot in Manly, also in Sydney. The hallway, dance area, and ballroom were all shot in Stage 1 at Fox Studios. The wharf was shot on Stage 1 and 3, and the stairs down to the pool were shot in Stage 2. Nick's cottage was shot at Mont Wilson and Sentinel Park, and in Stage 1 and 3 at Fox Studios. To be able to match scale and layout to the original photography, LiDAR scans were taken of each set and each location. They could then position the shots in their relative places within the 3D space and model the mansion and the grounds around them. For the car sequences, a combination of live-action photography, CG cars, drivers, digital crowds, and CG environments were used. The VFX team used a car pursuit scene in the 1928 film Speedy as a reference as to how busy the streets were and how chaotic the driving was. The live-action footage from the Duesenberg car sequence was filmed on a deserted dock at White Bay in Sydney, with a 650 feet long green screen wall that was made from plywood boards mounted on scaffolding. The original idea was to use the real car in these shots and just add the reflections of their CG environment to the chrome and shiny paneling on the car. However, the chrome and shiny paneling on the car acted as a mirror on set and so picked up the reflections of the crew members, camera and lighting equipment. So they actually ended up just replacing the whole car with their CG asset in order to properly deal with the reflections. The production team on and off set are constantly learning from their mistakes, which is why their experience advice is so valuable. But what if I were to tell you that this experienced advice is available for free on Skillshare? Yes, we've teamed up with Skillshare to offer you a 1-month free trial where you can learn solid filmmaking tips straight from the experts in the field. I took a quick class with Zach Mulligan and learned how he uses Google Docs to create a quick shareable shooting list to save time and avoid mistakes, like when you leave that all-important piece of kit behind. So annoying. Be sure to be one of the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description to get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. Please give us a like if you enjoyed this video. As always, the links to the music used in this video are in the video description, and let us know in the comments section what movie VFX you'd like to see behind next. Thanks for watching.